Hey kids, it's Miss Nichols. We're going to learn today how to do landscape painting. When you are doing landscape painting, first thing you need to remember is that you work from whatever is furthest away from you towards whatever is closest. In a landscape, the thing that's furthest away from you is the sky. Now I just picked up a little bit of black on my brush because I know that the higher up you go, the darker the sky looks, the further away from land. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix in just a touch of my straight blue. But whenever you paint a landscape, you kind of want to keep in mind that in order for the colors to look natural and not fake, you neutralize them a little bit. So I'm going to neutralize my blue with a little tiny bit of orange. And if you'll notice over here on my palette, it's starting to turn brown, and that's what I want. I don't want to paint a brown sky. I just want to take some of the saturation out of my blue so that it will look more natural. I'm using the surface of my palette to mix that color. Every color that you see in nature is going to be just very, very slightly neutralized in a landscape painting. Now if you choose expressionism, that you don't want to paint a realistic looking painting, then you can use straight saturated colors as long as you try to create your own, that you're not just using colors straight out of the cut. We want it to be as original as we can make it. Now I picked up a little bit of white on my brush because I want to begin to tint the colors that I've got. And I'm working in kind of dabs and dashes because I want my painting to look a little bit impressionistic. And that's what the Impressionists used to do. Oops, I got a little yellow in there. That's all right. Just kind of blend that in. It'll kind of go away after a while. And if it doesn't, you know what? I can let it dry and I can paint over that mistake. It's not a big deal. So, as I work, I'm keeping in mind that I want my sky, excuse me, to go from dark to light. Or if you don't want to have a super dark sky, you can go from medium to light. The closer it gets to the horizon, the lighter your colors will be. So I'm going to keep picking up a little bit more white. And in my sky that I'm painting, I really enjoy that streaky effect, that impressionist effect, where you can see a lot of different tints and shades of that neutralized blue. It's still blue, it's just a more natural looking blue than that straight blue out of the cup. So I'm going to keep applying my colors. If I want to create a kind of a sunrise effect or a sunset effect, when I get down here towards the middle of my paper, I can start picking up a little bit of the warmer colors. And again, I don't want to put straight red on here. I want to neutralize that red just a little bit. How do I do that? I create a neutral red by mixing in a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the opposite color, which is green. And that will take a little bit of the intensity out of that red and neutralize it just a tad. And I don't want that bright of a color either. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow in there and a little bit of white so that I'm just beginning to mix a slight variation in my sky. Get a little bit more of the white because I want it to blend. Your color gradation technique is going to come in really handy when you're painting your sky. I have to be really careful about how much yellow I put into this blue area because it will have a tendency to turn green. I don't want that. I don't want a green sky unless I'm painting a tornado coming. And again, I'm leaving some streaks in my sky because I like that effect. And the style of painting is very impressionistic. That's why I'm just laying my color down in dabs and dashes. If I don't want to have an impressionist painting, I would use more long brush strokes like so. And blend. And I like that too. I think that looks good. Looks just like a sunrise I saw the other day. And again, the more white I'm adding, it's because I'm getting closer and closer down to my horizon. So the first thing to know about landscape painting is you work from the furthest away to the closest. The second thing to know about landscape painting is that you want to neutralize your colors a little bit. You don't want to use straight saturated colors straight out of the cup. Then, here's another helpful hint when you're landscape painting. Go ahead and paint that sky all the way down to the bottom of your paper. I know that doesn't make sense because you're going to have trees or grass or something down there, but just trust me. It helps for two reasons. One thing is that when you go to paint whatever you're painting down there, trees or mountains or whatever, you will be overlapping them, and it's easier to get a real clean edge. And the other reason that it helps is because usually when you're landscape painting, any colors that are in the sky are going to come out in the land too. So if you have a little bit of sky color in the land, that will make it look even better, even more realistic. So what we're doing today is just learning how to neutralize colors a little bit to make them more natural, learn how to overlap, learning how to go from furthest to closest, all that sort of stuff. We're also going to, everyone is going to paint kind of the same landscape I'm doing today, just as a practice so that you get those techniques down. And then tomorrow you're going to begin painting whatever landscape you want to do. So I'm going to overlap some mountains with my sky. Let me scoot this tray back a little bit. And here's where my clean edge technique really comes in handy. And again, I don't want straight purple. I'm neutralizing that purple a little bit with my yellow. And far, far things away in a landscape are kind of bluer. So these distant mountains are going to be purple, which does have blue in it. Let's do a little bit of a darker purple. I want these mountains to be a little bit taller. And I definitely want a very crisp, clean edge between the edges of my mountains and my sky. Need a little bit more purple. It's almost like you're layering the middle ground, which is what I'm painting right now, the kind of in the middle. I'm layering that with my background, which is the sky. And I definitely, like I said, want a very, very clean edge. I don't want it to be blurry right here where those mountains touch the sky. And I'm just going to blend a little bit more paint here so I can create a line where my mountains end there on the land. And again, it's impressionistic. It's not going to look like a photograph. Get a little bit, oh, that's way too much yellow. There we go. And if I want to do some trees or something in the foreground, or the very closest thing to us will be called the foreground, I can take just plain old black, which is what I want everybody to do today, so you're not too worried about color necessarily. We're going to overlap a tree silhouette with our sky. And I'm just going to very carefully paint in a tree silhouette. There's one branch. There's two branches. We'll do a third branch over here. There we go. And I can take a texture brush and texture in my tree silhouette. Notice this texture brush is all messed up. This has been damaged, and I never throw away damaged brushes because they can be used as texture brushes. It's messed up. You see how all the bristles are sticking out everywhere? And this is what I tell people, don't mess up my brush. But it's, you know what, can be used for texture. I want you to practice this a little bit on the newspaper first. You're just dabbing dashes of color down in clumps, like so, to create kind of a foliage effect.